Let's talk about treasure hunt design. Whether you are a treasure hunter or you're interested in getting into the world of designing treasure hunts, you will find something valuable in the video. If you're a treasure hunter, there's no better way to get an understanding of how treasure hunts work than to get into the mind of the designers, to understand the way that they map out and create blueprints for treasure hunts. That will sometimes give you an edge, an advantage. It will help you to notice what a clue is likely to be and not be. It will help you understand just the game mechanics. Just like if you're playing a sport, knowing the rules of the sport, knowing a little bit more about it can give you an advantage. If you are interested in getting into the world of game design, especially treasure hunt design, I think you'll also find something valuable in this video. And if you've been doing treasure hunt design for a long time, I think you also might find something useful here. My name is Bernard Bull, and I've been doing research in this area for decades, and I'll offer you just a few tips to get you started. I used to do something similar with graduate students in a unit that I used to teach. So I'm going to take you through 12 steps of a treasure hunt design. Now, there are treasure hunts that are designed in many different ways. This is not a required recipe format, but this is a way and a path to designing predictably, to designing something that's going to be engaging and meaningful, and it will have multiple layers. It will have something kind of beautiful about it. So here we go. I'm going to dive in. We'll just work through the 12 steps. Step number 1, choose a theme. Now, not every treasure designer does this. Some just say, I have a treasure, I'm going to bury it, I'm going to give a map and find it. But this is a different approach. This is where you say, what is the overarching theme? You may choose a theme of Aesop's fables. You may choose a theme of a particular Greek myth or legend, or a Native American myth or story. You may choose a moment in history. Maybe it's something about the history of automobiles in the United States, or it could be the civil rights movement. You could pick some kind of theme or topic. It could be something about food, or you pick what it is, but pick something that can be thematic, and then stay with that theme throughout the entire treasure hunt. So to get started, step 1, just write out what is your theme going to be, and it's going to give you kind of thematic parameters within which you're going to work as you design the rest of the game or the treasure hunt. The second one then is determine the treasure. Now, this may seem obvious, and it is in some ways, but figure out what is your treasure going to be, how is it going to be contained, and how does it tie to the theme. Remember, you want to make sure your design is layered, so your treasures should be connected to your theme in some way. And some people make these really tight layerings, and some make them a little looser. But what's your treasure going to be? And sometimes you may decide, are there going to be multiple treasures or just one? And obviously the size of the treasure, monetary value, but there are lots of different treasures that you can create. Also think about the metaphorical treasures. If you are an educator, for example, one of the treasures may be knowledge or learning. There might be the treasure of the character or the camaraderie that's cultivated during the treasure hunt. So actually map those out and jot down what are the treasures, the big ones and the ones along the way that you want people to get. And keep those in front of you as you go through the rest of the design, and continue to ask yourself, is this design helping people to discover these treasures and leading them to the final treasure? The third one then is set the time frame. Now, this could range anywhere from a 30-minute time frame with a meeting or a group of people to something that's a couple of hours. It could be the length of a birthday party or event that you're hosting at your house. It could be a day, a week, a month, a year, or it could be indefinite. It could be as long as it takes to discover the treasure. That's up to you. You get to decide, but I just encourage you to think about the time frame and what are the benefits and downsides. Obviously, if you do a really short time frame and you have a fixed group of people that you want to participate in the treasure hunt, that can work really well. If you wanted to do a national treasure hunt and make it just a week, well, that's okay if you have a target audience and they're already engaged, but the reality is just that's going to create limitations, so not many people will be able to participate. So think about the time frame in terms of what you want to accomplish more broadly. The fourth one then is to define the play area. So a treasure hunt could be in a single room. It could be in a house, a building, a park, a specific region, state, nation, internationally, galactically pick it out, but think about it intentionally. What makes the most sense for the type of treasure hunt you're designing and the audience that's likely to participate or you hope or want to participate in it? And obviously keep safety and other things like that in mind. And think about the location and spaces in terms of your theme and how you want to tie those together. The fifth one then is build the clue chain. Now, this is assuming that you're doing a clue chain treasure hunt, but there are multiple types of treasure hunts. So a clue chain treasure hunt is one where you have an introductory clue, and that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. Think about the movie National Treasure, the classic example of a clue chain treasure hunt. So you can kind of map out your clue chain a little bit. Do you want it to be 5 steps, 7 steps? What generally do you want? Think about the themes. Do you want to introduce them to specific theme aspects of the theme along the way, and when and where and what makes logical sense? And if you are not doing a clue chain treasure hunt, you may be doing a single object treasure hunt where you have a map or a book or a poem, and all the clues necessary to get to the treasure are in that one artifact. And then you can still just kind of map out what are the key clues that you want to include in that artifact. And this is not defining the clues in detail. You're just kind of doing a quick outline at this stage. So after you've done the clue chain, then you get to the next step, step 6, which is where you write the clues. And this is where you have to think in great painful detail about each and every clue and mapping it out and giving all the detail that's needed for the person that's going to be participating. It's nice, depending upon the scope of your treasure hunt. If you're designing a multi-million-dollar treasure hunt and you don't want any family or friends to know anything because you don't want them to be at risk, that's understandable. But if you're designing a typical treasure hunt for a small community or whatever, think about a test group or some people you can test your clues with, because sometimes we think our clues are really simple and they're very, very hard or impossible. Sometimes we think they're very hard and your 5-year-old solves it in 20 seconds. So you get the idea that as you're mapping out the clues, you want to really think through that, make sure that you're getting all of the details and nuances figured out. So once you've written the clues, you want to establish rules of the treasure hunt. Treasure hunt is a type of game, so what are the rules of the game? Now, it doesn't mean you have to give all those rules to the treasure hunters up front. Sometimes you do in a time-bound and location-bound treasure hunt. You just say, here are the rules of the treasure hunt, and they all know them and they operate from them. Sometimes you give partial rules and they have to discover some of the rules as they play, and that's okay too, but you're going to map out the rules for yourself. Obviously keep safety in mind and legality in mind and other things like that. That's why it's good for you to write out the rules and figure out what you'll communicate to people when, where, and why. And then the next one is, after you establish the rules, the 8th one is to plan the game master role. So you're the game designer by default, you're the game master. Do you want to be engaged and in part? Once the treasure hunt releases, do you want to be a part of it? Can they contact you? In the Forest Fen treasure hunt, people could text, email, and even meet with Forrest Fenn at times. John Collins Black does media appearances as part of There's Treasure Inside, which is active at the time of this video. So you just need to figure out what role will you play. And when you're doing the clues, you'll begin to notice, are there any characters, like live people, that need to play a role? So for example, a common clue, and I do have another video on clue types that you could check out if you want, but a common clue would be that people discover a number, they call the number or text the number, and they get a text response back that's the next clue. Maybe that's a manual process. So who's going to receive the text and respond back, or who's going to create the auto respond? Who's going to do that stuff behind the scenes? So figure out the roles of yourself, game master, any other characters. Or sometimes you set up a treasure hunt where people have to go to a local store, and when they give a code word to the barista at the coffee shop, the barista gives you a piece of paper that's the next clue. So again, think about those characters. What are the roles they're going to play? That will be part of your designing your clues, but here you're just mapping out the list of characters and the game master role so that you're really clear about that. The 9th one then is to create the invitation. So some treasure hunts are quietly introduced, where maybe it's a quiet web page or a social media post that just gives people a little clue and a hint to get them going. And it may take days, weeks, months, or years for people to even learn that the treasure hunt is going on. And in other cases, you're in a specific room and you say, hey, everyone, we're going to start a treasure hunt. And you just kind of tell them what's going on. You just need to figure out how the invitation is going to happen. Maybe you send a letter to people that invites them to become part of the treasure hunt. Maybe you promote a book, and the book is the invitation. Figure out your invitation plan and who you want to invite and how you want them to discover it. The 10th one is the conclusion. Plan the conclusion. How will you know when the treasure has been discovered? Sometimes it's all happening in a bound place and you're watching and you'll just see it when the treasure is discovered. In other cases, maybe you have a trail cam that's on the treasure and you get to watch and see whenever it's been discovered. Other cases, in the treasure, there's some kind of conditional treasure. So you get part of it, but you have to contact the designer to get the other part. So that ensures that you're going to be notified. There are lots of different ways to plan that out, but come up with a plan for how you're going to know when it's over, if that's important to you, and what you're going to do. Is there going to be a party, a celebration? Is there going to be a message of congratulations? Is just how do you want that to look like? It could be whatever you want. Then the 11th is running the hunt. Just again, map out what it's going to look like as the hunt is progressing and happening, and try to anticipate problems in advance and see if you can't design your way around those, safety, legal, just social complexities and so forth, and sort of plan for that. And then the 12th is once it's all done, what now? How will you know if the treasure hunt was successful according to your personal goals as the designer? And come up with a way to determine that. And maybe you'll glean some insights for a next treasure hunt you design. You put these 12 together and you just kind of literally write this out. It could be a single page. It could be 3, 5, 10, 12 pages. People get more or less detailed. But if you write it out this way, you are setting yourself up for a great treasure hunt. And if you are a treasure hunter, now you've been invited into the mind of how treasure hunters design blueprints, at least some of us.